What is up, guys? We just had a first round of the draft. Give me a second to get everything ready for you guys. Obviously, want to make sure that we have everything that we want to talk about, have chat. We're going to do a short, quick stream. Nothing super long, nothing super crazy. But I wanted to give my reactions to the to the draft, the first round, what we saw from this first round, the players that were taken, you know, just the whole nine, and really just, give my thoughts on what I saw from teams, from these players, and just kind of go over the first round and talk about all of that. I think the first thing that we've got to start with, obviously, at this point, is you got to have a conversation about Will McDonald, right? And the New York Jets taking Will McDonald the fourth at pick 15. And there's a couple of things that we can talk about when it comes to this pick. The first thing that I want to say about this pick is that on the surface, I know that a lot of Jets fans are upset with this pick, and this isn't the guy that they expected. Because let's be honest, at no point in time in any mock draft that we were doing, that we were watching people do, or anything along those lines, did we really see the New York Jets targeting an edge. And with good reason, right? The edge position, especially on this football team, is stacked. We've got a lot of really good players. Carl Lawson, Jonathan Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, and Bryce Huff, and a bunch of guys that all can rush the passer. And so we kept looking at this team, and we kept talking about the holes, and we kept talking about how, we want offensive tackle. We want, some people went down. I was never on this train. I never really thought that this was something that we were going to do, but there were people who wanted wide receiver, safety was even in the conversation, a bunch of different things that way. And I think the thing that makes this pick sting just a little bit is the fact that we trade for Aaron Rodgers and swap 13 and 15. A part of the trade that we didn't need to do. But then on top of that, at 13, Broderick Jones is available, and the New England Patriots trade out so that the Pittsburgh Steelers can come and get our guy. And you can kind of tell by how much time we took on the clock to make this pick that we were trying to trade out, that we were trying to find someone to come up to get a quarterback, to get anybody, to get a corner, to get a wide receiver, whatever it was. And Joe Douglas and the New York Jets didn't love the value of those trade back scenarios as much as they liked Will McDonald the fourth. Now let's talk about Will McDonald, because he is a phenomenal athlete, and on this team is going to be utilized phenomenally. He's going to be a good player for this franchise. And specifically, the thing that we need to understand about this pick and his fit is that I think a reason a lot of people are down on Will McDonald, and I'm a little upset that Joe Douglas said this in his phone call, because I thought I was going to be like the smart guy with this take and be like, ooh, no one else is talking about this. But Will McDonald had a lackluster year last year because they bumped him inside and essentially played him right over the tackle. And when you look at a guy who's 6'3", 233 pounds, that's not where you want to play him, like, at all. You want him to be playing as your wide 9, as your 7 tech, as the guy who's really far, off of the shoulder of the offensive tackle, and he's using his speed and his explosiveness to catch the corner. That's what you want to use a guy with this kind of skill set. And unfortunately, Iowa State was incorrectly utilizing Will McDonald and his skill set last year. That being said, he's incredibly long, he's incredibly bursty, he's got incredible speed and just explosiveness and bend. And if you haven't seen the video that's been surfacing around the internet, and you should go try and find it, he's got one of the best, if not the best, spin move in this class. If you watch, there is a Senior Bowl tape going around right now of him absolutely annihilating also first round prospect that was taken in this class, Darnell Wright. He was taken in the top 10, and he absolutely put Darnell Wright on skates. So again, while it's not the best pick when you look at utilization of the 15th overall pick, I do like the conviction in the sense of Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas saying we're not going to reach for a position of need. I would have been cool with Anton Harrison at 15. Obviously, they weren't as high on Anton Harrison as I am. I would have liked to maybe see Miles Murphy instead of maybe a Will McDonald. But they weren't as high as Miles Murphy as we are. So, again, is this an interesting pick in the sense of, did anybody expect this pick? No, I know I didn't. But I can't say that I am mad at this pick. You know, I get why we did it. The thing that people need to also remember is that when Robert Saleh took the best defense he ever had to a Super Bowl that lost because Jimmy G sucks. Was it Jimmy G that was that with him in the Super Bowl? I don't remember who the quarterback was in that Super Bowl. I believe it was Jimmy G. Whatever. They had like 4 or 5 first-round picks on just that defensive line. They're always going to address the defensive line. And having a heavy rotation is key to Robert Saleh's plan and for what he wants to do. Now, I do expect that we might see some more Michael Clemens on the inside reps, JFM on the inside reps. And even though JFM is better suited to play outside, those are, when you have guys like Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald and Carl Lawson and all of these guys, you got to find reps for all of these guys. You have to find playing time for everybody, and it makes a ton of sense. What do I project or what do I predict for Will McDonald? Well, in a year's time, I think what we're going to see is Jermaine Johnson overtake Jonathan Franklin Myers on that left side, being that stout run, that stud run stopping edge who can still disrupt and get to the passer when needed. And Will McDonald fits a perfect kind of skill set in my mind as a Carl Lawson replacement. Carl Lawson is told to rush the passer every single rep. You're going to explode off of the weak side. You're going to use what you can to get there. And when you look at Will McDonald's skill set, you put him on the weak side. You tell him to beat left tackles to that edge, to that corner. And the greatest thing is because he's so fast, he's going to have tackles taking extra steps, and boom, if he sets it up right, he spins inside, that's a sack. So watch out, because Will McDonald's a good player. He's a really good player. Just not in love with taking him at 15. Let's say this hi to some people in the chat. Explosive Diarrhea, what's going on? Connor Hughes from SNY gave us a C, and ESPN gave us an F for the 15th pick based on need. And again, it comes back to, and this is what Joe Douglas said, right, at his presser right after the pick. The New York Jets and will not reach for need. We're going to stay true to our board and take best player available. And that's how you win, is taking the best player, not reaching for players of need. The New York Jets have been reaching for players of need for so long, in my eyes, and not getting players that fit our system, not getting players, just good football players make good football plays. That's it. And that's what we did in this pick. But I understand there are going to be a lot of people looking at this pick and scratching their head. But I'm just hoping that over time, Will McDonald comes out and looks like a good pick. Chiefs Live, how's everyone? How are you, man? I like Will McDonald's pick. I did too. How do you like Felix Unudzike Uzoma? That's a new DK, I'm sorry, Uzoma. It's an interesting pick for you guys. It's a very interesting pick. So let's recap the first round, and then let's end this draft so everyone can go to sleep. We got a long day tomorrow. Number 1 overall, Carolina Panthers do the thing that we all expected them to do when they took Bryce Young. The Houston Texans come up to the number 2 pick, and they, with all of the smoke, don't let anybody fool them. They go CJ Stroud, and then at the number 3 pick, they come back up to go and get Will Anderson. Now let's talk about this trade. There were a lot of trades. We're going to talk about a ton of them. So let's talk about this trade. One, the Arizona Cardinals absolutely robbed the Houston Texans, especially when we look at how much draft capital other teams were making to move up. This is way too much draft capital for a non-quarterback. Now, this has nothing to do with Will Anderson as the player who wasn't my favorite edge rusher in this class. He was actually edge 3 on my board. And you know what? If DeMeco Ryans loved him, then DeMeco Ryans loved him. And I'm not going to sit here and argue that. But to give up a second and a fourth and a 1 next year to come up to get Will Anderson, this is a bit much. You know what I mean? If 6 was for sale, you could have come up to 6 because we knew that like Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson probably would have been on the board at 6. And the Cardinals came up to 6, and I'm pretty sure it only cost them a third. They went up 6 spots, and it only cost them. If someone can look that up for me, I believe it was only a third is what they gave up, right? They swapped first, and then they gave up a third, or did they give up a second? Whatever it was, those 3 spots aren't worth a fourth and a first in next year. It's absolutely insane what Houston paid. Hopefully, if that's the case and that's what they want to do, like it works out for them. But I don't look at them as a winning franchise. I don't look at Houston as a team that's going to win a ton of games. And the cherry on the cake that is this Arizona Cardinals trade is that it's the Houston Texans first round pick that they sent over. That quite possibly and quite probably will be a top 10 pick next year. So Arizona is going to have the number 1 overall pick and a top 10 pick. I hope Will Anderson is worth it because you guys gave up a lot to go and get him. The Indianapolis Colts with another kind of shakeup. Everybody and all of the smoke and all of the rumors before the draft were pointing towards the fact that the Indianapolis Colts were going to go Will Levis, who didn't even get taken in the first round. No, they pivot. They take quarterback out of Florida, Anthony Richardson. This is a great fit for Indianapolis, a fantastic fit for Indianapolis. Remember that Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, was the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he ran that RPO-heavy scheme in Philadelphia, helping Jalen Hurts develop his arm. And if you can do the same thing with Anthony Richardson, watch out. Indianapolis can be legitimately good. Seattle comes up to the board, and everybody expected this has to be Jalen Carter, right? There's no way that they're going to pass on Jalen Carter. If it's not Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, you are a Seattle Seahawk. No, they pivot, and they go and get the best cornerback in the draft, Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. I love this pick for them. While, yes, they got a really good corner in Tariq Woolen last year, Tariq Woolen, in my eyes, is not a number 1 corner. He has some problems in his game that you can expose. He's a zone corner. The good thing for them is they run a ton of cover 2, a ton of cover 3, a ton of quarters. Like, that's what they do. So he excels in that. Devin Witherspoon has legitimate opportunity to play really, really good, meaningful reps on the outside. And now they've got 3 solid corners. Devin Witherspoon is by far and away the best corner that they've got. They can bump in, I believe it was 4th round draft pick, Kobe Bryant to the inside to play the slot, and now they can play Tariq Woolen opposite of Devin Witherspoon. Seattle has a serious secondary now. Watch out, because that's a good defense. Let's pause at pick number 5. Say hi to some people in the chat. Missed some people. Zachary Burner, McDonald's is fast off the edge. Absolutely, dude. He's the most explosive player when it comes in the edge. Like, he explodes, and he's got, when you add that with his arm length, because I believe he's got like 36.5-inch arms, or it's 35 and 6/8 arms or something like that. He's got insanely long arms. Like I think it's like 84th or 86th percentile when you look at his arm length. Give me a sec. I'm pulling it up, guys. Boom, there it is. He's got, 35-inch arms. Just crazy, crazy long arms. That's in the 90th percentile for arm length. And you add that explosiveness and that speed that he brings in, watch out, because he's going to be able to beat tackles to the top of their routes. So I agree with this. Mr. Green Jeans, they don't know what they're talking about. McDonald had one of the best pro days in history. The scouting community was buzzing. Senior Bowl was awesome. He is extra long and gets turnovers and sacks. You're absolutely right. I had Will McDonald as my number 6 edge, like, on my board. Now, I didn't get to talk about him because I only did my top 5 picks when it came to the edge when I did my video. But this is a great pick. I know a lot of people that I trust really, really highly had Will McDonald in that tier 1 of edge rushers in this class, in the same breaths as guys like Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson and Lucas Van Ness and Miles Murphy and all of those guys who are legitimate pass rushers. I know a ton of guys who had them in that same tier 1. Nolan Smith as well, that had them in that tier 1 of surefire first-round draft pick. These guys are going to dominate. So, again, this is a great next comment to talk about in Wild Wave. In Joe Douglas and in JD, we just trust. We know what this team can do with scouting. And like I've said it, and I'm going to keep saying it, when Robert Saleh had a defense that he was able to take to the Super Bowl, they had 4 or 5 first-round picks on that defensive line. The New York Jets are going to stock assets. Even if it's not a need, they're going to stock assets on the defensive line as much as possible because that's how they see their team winning football games. It's getting to the passer. This is a throwing league. Quarterbacks are throwing for 4,000 yards every single year consistently. And the best way to stop them from throwing the ball is to getting to the passer. We saw that at the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs got to Jalen Hurts. The Philadelphia Eagles couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes, and they won the Super Bowl. So it's building on that plan of success that the New York Jets are building here. And yeah, we barely saw Jermaine Johnson last year. Again, it's that heavy rotation. And the real thing is we're probably going to see more of Jermaine Johnson this year because our interior defensive line depth isn't as strong. Now, we still have the second-round pick in this year's draft, obviously, that we're going to see tomorrow. There's still the possibility of a trade that can happen. Carl Lawson and Bryce Huff have now become kind of expendable pieces. You can trade them to get more picks if that's the way that you wanted to go. I don't think the Jets do that, but that is an opportunity to do there. And like I said earlier in the stream, I ultimately think that what this move is last year we drafted Jermaine Johnson to be Jonathan Franklin Myers' replacement. He's going to play on that strong side. He's going to be that run stuffing edge who can create penetration and get to the passer effectively. And then Carl Lawson is on the weak side and he pushes through and he explodes and he goes after the passer every single rep on the weak side. And that's exactly what Will McDonald is. And what we're looking at is our 2 edges of the future right here, and Jonathan Franklin Myers on the strong side and Will McDonald on the weak side. Tigo, we playing Will McDonald as a linebacker like our Fred Warner because he was announced as a linebacker. No, so he's a linebacker in the sense he's an outside linebacker. He's a linebacker in the sense that Hassan Reddick is a linebacker. Now, he is never going to drop in coverage for us. He is a standing up, get after the edge, a wide 9. He is an outside linebacker. He is not a coverage guy. He's not like that's not what he is, right? He's not that type of linebacker. So, boom. Connor Rodgers said it best a few days ago when he said that Levis is a pre-draft pawn and no teams really loved him. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Witherspoon was a great fit for them. It's a positive thing that we have no idea what JD's board looks like. He runs a tight ship, and he has surprised me before with GM moves, notably undrafted free agent pickups or waivers. That being said, I was stunned. M. Lopez, I was also stunned. This was not a pick that I expected. I expected the trade back, honestly. But for this to be the pick, I was stunned as well. But he's got great tape. Oh, there's Explosive Diarrhea saying it too. Jermaine Johnson put out some very good tape in limited reps. Very good tape. I think Carl Lawson and Huff are gone. We'll see. Remember, Salah, like Green's genes, he beats me to it. He wants to run it 10, 11 deep on that defensive line, like all of the time. This makes a ton of sense if you want to keep all those guys. I feel like we're talking ourselves into liking this pick. The biggest problem with this round ultimately was the pick swap with Green Bay. Hope the dude is a stud, though. T.I., I said that earlier in the draft. I think that we don't like this pick because of the fact that we pick swapped with Green Bay. We felt like there were maybe some players in this draft that might fit a closer position of need, and the fact that New England screwed us over letting Pittsburgh come up and take our guy. Those are all things, and they don't take away from the sting of the pick, right? The pick swap absolutely sucked, and it didn't have to be a part of the trade, and it sucked that we didn't get Broderick Jones. But hindsight is 2020. If the Jets believed that we were going to get Broderick Jones, or hell, if Broderick Jones, what if they do believe in this offensive tackle class, like in the offensive tackles that we've got? I don't necessarily want to bank on this, but a tackle room of Mekhi Becton and Max Mitchell is absolutely phenomenal if you're looking at left tackle and right tackle. Like, I love those two guys. I wanted us to draft a tackle, not because I don't believe in those guys, but both of those guys are coming off of injury, and that's the concern. They're still round two. There's still guys in free agency. We've got Aaron Rodgers now. So there are players that can come back. There are players that can come to the team again. Like George Fant, there's nothing stopping George Fant from coming back. And George Fant is a great swing tackle. Like, that's a real option, and that's a real opportunity for the New York Jets. So, again, while I would have loved Broderick Jones, because an offensive line the next year of Mekhi Becton and Broderick Jones had me, I had a partial just thinking about it. This isn't the end of the world. So let me see if there's any chats that I want to say. NFL Network gave us a C-. That makes sense. How bad do you think the offers that Joe Douglas supposedly got by phone were that we passed up trading down and we stuck with the pick? They were 3rd or 4th round picks, Matt. Had to be. Pick swap, especially knowing you're picking after the Patriots in the swap, is why I would have never agreed to it with the Packers. Yeah, again, like hindsight's 2020, right, Rob? And I get exactly what you're saying. So there you go. I heard that Seattle tried to trade up to get Will McDonald. They loved him and would have taken him at 20. Look at that. There we go. Okay, let's go back to evaluating the draft. Thank you guys for all the chats. We'll get back to the chat. The only thing that'll interrupt me, I'm going to go all the way to pick 15, but super chats disrupt the screen, and that's the easiest way to get your comment read if you have a question. We're at pick number 6, and the Arizona Cardinals, who just traded out of the number 3 pick all the way back to 12, with the Houston Texans trade back up to 6 to get their guy in Paris Johnson Jr., and Detroit gets out of the top 10, which was honestly surprising. Really surprised me, because I thought, again, with Jalen Carter there and their need on the defensive side of the ball, to pass on that, or even to pass on Christian Gonzalez after trading Jeff Okudah away, didn't make a ton of sense for me, but that's what they did. The Raiders, with an opportunity to take quarterback Will Levis, pass on that and pass on the offensive lineman, and they take the edge out of Texas Tech Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson was a great prospect. He was my number 1 edge in this class, and now you're putting him on the other side of Max Crosby. There is a concern with Tyree Wilson because he does have the foot injury that he's still recovering from. He wasn't able to work out this offseason. That being said, this is still a great pick for them, because Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson are 2 game wreckers, and if they can develop Tyree Wilson into the player that I believe he can be, watch out. They're not going to be able to sustain him. Atlanta Falcons at 8, and you could tell that they tried to get out of this spot and trade back, but they couldn't find a suitor, and so they stuck and picked, and they did the thing. Absolutely blew my mind. This is way too high to go. Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas. They don't care. They're going to run the ball. An opportunity to get Will Levis. They said, no, thank you. We're going to stick with our guns. We're going to take a running back, not just in the first, but in the top 10. Fun fact, because of the rookie wage scale, Bijan Robinson is a top 10 paid running back in the NFL. Absolutely insane. The Philadelphia Eagles traded up, right? Chicago was here at 9, and they wanted to stop Chicago from taking their guy, and they take another Georgia defensive tackle. They take Jalen Carter to fit him into that defensive line rotation. Absolute insane. Not forgetting that they took the other Georgia defensive tackle. Last year, they have 4 Georgia Bulldogs. The Philadelphia Bulldogs is what they're called now. It's insane. The Georgia to Philadelphia connection continues strong. The Chicago Bears, I think, shock a lot of people, and they go offensive tackle Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. I love this pick for Chicago. It made a ton of sense for them. Chicago needed a right tackle absolutely desperately, and Darnell Wright is by far the best tackle in this class. A lot of people were concerned about his weight problems that he has. He plays really close to 360, and he dropped 30 pounds for the combine and all of those things. So let's see where he plays. The Tennessee Titans are here at 11, and they were calling to come up to number 3, probably to take a quarterback, but they didn't get their quarterback. They stuck and picked. Everybody believed, including myself, that they were going to go Will Levis here. No, they shocked the world. Peter Skoronski comes to the Tennessee Titans. They needed the offensive tackle. They went out and they got one of the best in this class, and they move on. Detroit is now here at 12 after trading out of 6 to move back, and this was the first, oh my God, what is happening? What pick in the draft? Detroit Lions at 12 take Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back out of Alabama. Absolutely blew my mind. I said it in my video before the draft. Jahmyr Gibbs was going in the first round, and I said it too. Wherever you think that Bijan Robinson is going, it's higher. Wherever you think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going, that's also higher. I was right on both of those accounts. Absolutely blew my mind that he went at 12, though. The Green Bay Packers with the 13th pick take one of my favorite edge prospects in this class in Lucas Van Ness, continuing to do the Green Bay Packers thing. Let's not help our new rookie quarterback. Let's not do any of those things. The wide receivers on the board, no. They took another edge rusher. Now, Lucas Van Ness is going to provide a ton of versatility for that defense. They can play inside. He can play outside. He can stand up. He can put his hand in the dirt. He can put 2 hands in the dirt. The guy is a ball of clay, and they can do whatever they want. Then at 14, the Pittsburgh Steelers trade up with the New England Patriots to take Broderick Jones. They need to protect their new quarterback in Kenny Pickett. They went out and they traded for a number 1 wide receiver in Allen Robinson to partner up with a guy who's also a number 1-ish wide receiver in Deontay Johnson. Don't forget that they have rookie sensation Kenny Pickett in the wide receiver room as well. Not Kenny Pickett. George Pickens in the wide receiver room as well, really doing everything that they can to make sure that Kenny has the easiest life possible, make sure that Najee Harris can come back really, really strong after that foot injury. This pick makes a lot of the concerns that you have about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense kind of go away. Broderick Jones can play on the left side or the right side. And while he is a little bit raw, he's immediately going to start for Pittsburgh. And then the New York Jets take Will McDonald, the 4th, the edge out of Iowa. So let's go to the chat before we wrap up the rest of the first round. Let's see what people are saying here. Tigo, I said the day of the trade, not just after tonight's pick. Oh, no, I know what you're saying. We didn't need to do it, but if that's what got him done, and again, you have to remember that like the whole cap situation and all of those things, all of that stuff needed to happen, and a lot of people don't realize this, but Green Bay also, remember, they took the option on Aaron Rodgers' contract, converting a bunch of his salary into a bonus, right, or whatever, so that they could take the dead cap hit, so that the New York Jets would get a $1 million Aaron Rodgers. That's what we have. For those of you who don't know, Aaron Rodgers' cap hit this year is $1.2 million. And that really, really was able to help the New York Jets and this football team. But Green Bay needed to sit with that contract for 24 hours. So all of the people saying that the New York Jets could have waited till draft day to make this trade, that's not a reality. If we wanted to give Green Bay the picks, and Green Bay wanted to do those picks and wanted to do this kind of trade on day 1, we would have needed to do it 24 hours before the pick. The earliest we could have done it was yesterday. So keep that in mind. Green Bay needed to sit with the Aaron Rodgers contract for 24 hours before trading him. We might get center or outside linebacker. We might get center or inside linebacker, not outside linebacker. McDonald had more tree visit requests than any player. He passed on 6 of them because of time restraints. That's crazy. I did not know that. I wanted Kalijah Cansey, but it is what it is. Kalijah was small, man. That's the problem. Like, when you look at Kalijah, he is a really interesting prospect because he's short and underweight for the position that he plays. But he's short and overweight to bump outside. He doesn't really have a fit for a lot of teams. And that was the thing. I knew that we were really high on Kalijah, but for the same concerns I had with Peter Skoronski when I look at it from a general manager's perspective, there were going to be general managers who weren't in love with Kalijah Cansey, who did not see him as a first-round player because of the size constraint, because of the size concern. And that's what we saw. Kalijah Cansey falling all the way to Tampa, which is a great fit in a 3-4 where he can play an end, not a nose tackle, not a defense, not like an edge, but like a right end or a left end. That makes a lot of that gives him an opportunity to do good things. So this isn't Kalijah hate. I loved Kalijah Cansey. I think he would have done a lot of good things, but Kalijah was small. And that's the concern that you see there. And that's why I think that they passed on him, was because of his size. I wanted Kalijah as well. It filled a need and would have helped our pass rush too. So does Will McDonald's, right? Philly's defense is going to be ridiculous. Absolutely. We're going to talk about their next pick a little bit later. Philly versus New York Jets in this duper bowl wouldn't suck. No, it wouldn't. I think we passed on Cansey because he's not good against the run. Wild Wave, that's not why we passed on Cansey. I think we passed on Cansey because of his size. The New York Jets, when they're looking at defensive tackles, especially when you have Quinnen Williams, who's really good against the run, the other defensive tackle does not need to be good against the run. He needs to be a good pass rusher. And Kalijah Cansey is that. He is a good pass rusher. The size, that was what we passed on. I feel that 100% confident in my mind. Clearly, McDonald was the highest player on our board, took him over a lot of bigger names, played more inside last year, and he still had about 23 pressures. And I was saying this earlier, Haider Ali, he has no business playing inside. He has no business playing a 4-eye. That's not what he should do. He should be playing a 7. He should be playing a wide 9. He should be outside of the tackle, like off of that shoulder on the outside edge. That's where he's going to shine. Iowa State did him a disservice. It's the same thing with what Alabama did with Will Anderson this year. They put him over the tackle way too much. That's not what he did. That's not what he's good at. Good call on the running backs. Don't be surprised if Roschon Johnson goes in the second. He's been underrated but known to scouts, much like McDonald. I love Roschon. If Roschon wasn't at Texas, if he went to a different program where he could have been a bell cow, I said this a while ago, I think it would have been a second-round pick. I think it would have been running back 3 in this draft, like legitimately. But because he had to play behind Bijan, he fell down a lot of boards, but he is a really seriously good running back. Another one to keep an eye on, Israel Abanikanda out of Pitt. I love that kid. He's explosive. He runs, and when his feet hit the ground, it's like the ground slept with his girlfriend or shot his dog or something. He runs angry he runs. Looking ahead to day 2, there isn't much to be excited about. I think we have more picks in day 3, but isn't this a weak draft? I'm excited to see new offense already. I know our defense is top. M. Lopez, here's the thing. The best part of this draft is rounds 2 to 4 or 5, right? That's the best part of this draft. The top end talent is not very good. The middle rounds is where you have a lot of flexibility. This is why the Jets made sure to move up in the 5th round, right? That's why when we traded Aaron Rodgers, we made sure that we gave up a 6 to get into the 5th, is because that's where this draft class really shines, and that's where we're going to see a lot of good players. So there is a lot to be excited about with day 2 and day 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a Corey Davis or a Bryce Huff or a Carl Lawson get moved so that we can get another day 2 pick. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if we traded out of 43 to get another day two pick, like a third rounder or something like that. It would make a ton of sense because at 42, what's going to be there? Now, if one of the offensive tackles is there, if a Matthew Bergeron is there, if a DeJuan Jones is there, I don't think he will be. I think he's going to be I think he's going to go earlier than that. If one of these other tackles that are there, if the BYU kid, if you're high on him, I forget Blake Freeland, there's going to be some guys that are going to have some second round grades on them. But my eyes really pivot now in this second round to offensive tackle, but really linebacker. I'm really looking at guys like Dorian Williams, not Dorian Williams, but like Dion Henley, DeMarvion Overshone. Those kind of coverage linebackers would make a ton of sense for the New York Jets to bring in. Dion Henley is the dream. If you can trade out of 43 and let's say go to the middle 50s, 53 to 57, I think Dion Henley would still be there. You'll still be able to get a stud and maybe pick up a 4th round pick, a 5th round pick to go get that. Because Henley would be a stud for this defensive class for the Jets. What's up, Tigo? Love the content, bro. Logjam in the D-line room. No. What's up, Mark Riss? It's been a while since I've seen you on the channel. Not really. You have to remember that we love our rotation at the defensive line. Robert Saleh's team that he took to the Super Bowl, right, when he was in San Francisco, were 10 or 11 deep. And they had 4 or 5 first-round draft picks on that D-line. The real thing that I'm starting to expect is maybe the thing that the New York Jets fans have been wishing for a long time. Not myself. I don't love this move, but maybe that idea of bumping JFM inside for more reps is going to take a prevalence there. The other thing that we need to remember, Mark, whenever GMs are drafting, GMs don't draft with the idea of we're going to pick for this year, right? Good GMs draft for what's my need in 2 years. That's how you should draft. Too many teams get caught in a bind because they need to draft a need, right? And that's a real issue. The New York Jets felt like they don't have a need in this class. And the reality is, if you look at all 11 spots on the offensive side of the ball and all 11 spots on the defensive side of the ball, we have a starter at every single one of those positions. Now, whether you believe in that starter, that's a different point, and that's a different conversation. So the New York Jets didn't have a need, and we went for the best player on the board, and that's what they did. The rotation is going to work, and when you look at, I think, next year, this is when the Will McDonald pick is going to make a ton of sense, right? Because next year, Carl Lawson won't be on this team. Next year, there is a good to fair chance Jonathan Franklin Myers isn't on this team. And now you're looking at, Jermaine Johnson, the first-round pick from 2 years ago, takes Jonathan Franklin Myers' job, and Will McDonald, the first-round pick from last year's draft, takes Carl Lawson's job. They are perfect. I would even consider them upgrades to what those guys are, and I would not be surprised if we started seeing JJ get more reps than JFM this year on the outside, and I would not be surprised to see Will McDonald on the right side, on the weak side of the defensive line, utilized like JJ was last year, maybe 30, 35, 40% of the reps on that right side, on that weak side, because that's what he is. He is a pass rusher. That's what he does. And so the reality is we're probably not going to keep Huff after this year. I never thought that we were going to be able to keep him. He's going to play himself into an expensive contract, so he's going to be gone. Keep that deep rotation of edge rushers. It's about continued and sustained success. You know what I mean? You got to think about the fact that Aaron Rodgers has basically come out and committed to the New York Jets for more than 2 years. Everyone's talking about how this might be a 4-year run with Aaron Rodgers. And if that's the case, if we're going to be super optimistic here and have a 4-year run with Aaron Rodgers, keeping that D-line rotation is going to be key. And we can go and get offensive linemen elsewhere. George Fant is still a free agent, and I bet he wants to come back to the New York Jets to win a ring. I'm just saying. Let's keep it going. A bunch of people liking the linebacker talk. That's good. Bijan is a stud. Absolutely. Can't be upset with taking a top 5 player in the draft, even if fans think we went too early. I don't know about a top 5 player. Top 15? Probably. Top 5? I don't know. Tigo talking like a GM now. I always try to. Like, that's my point. Like, whenever I make my videos, I really try to think like a general manager, like a scout. What am I seeing? What are the fits and all of those things? I try to make that my brand. Oh, Bijan. I was like, what? I was like, top 5. How did we go from a top 20, top 15 guy to a top 5? That's a bit of a reach, but no, Bijan makes sense. Bijan Algier is going to be a great 1-2 punch. Absolutely. They're trying to replicate the success that he had with the run game. And by he, I mean Arthur Smith, that he had in the run game in Tennessee. And Algier, while he's great, is not Derrick Henry. And Bijan, while he's great, is not Derrick Henry. So what do? You get Bijan and Algier and hope that the combination can be as good as Derrick Henry. We'll see. But yeah. 3 years max. I would not be surprised if there was a 4th year, but I get you, Steph. You're not wrong. You're probably there too. I was actually impressed that Mel Kiper called the McDonald pick before it happened. Really? I'm not an ESPN guy. I don't like the ESPN draft analyst. Specifically, I can't stand Greeny. He seems like such a fake Jets fan. And so if I'm going to watch a Jets fan, I watch the NFL Network because Rich Eisen and Joel Klatt and Daniel Jeremiah, I like those guys way more than I like the ESPN guys. But that's me. All right, guys, we're going to do picks 16 all the way to 25, recatch up on the draft, and then end the draft because it is late. I got to go to sleep. I got 2 finals tomorrow. So let's do that. Washington surprised me and absolutely overdrafted Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback out of Mississippi State. The problem I have with Emmanuel Forbes is not the player, but the size of the player. A cornerback at 160 pounds, that's light. Now, the guy's a ball hawk. He knows how to get to the ball, and he plays aggressive. But, like, Washington, what are you going to do when you have to have Emmanuel Forbes cover DK Metcalf? Like, that's where I have a concern with Emmanuel Forbes. Now, if he was 20 pounds heavier, that's a different conversation. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's just going to get into an NFL locker room and put him in there. Do you really think that Mississippi State, a team that has nutritionists and has all of those things, don't know that maybe he can pack on weight? You don't think that they've tried to do that? Come on. Of course they did. That being said, passing up on Christian Gonzalez was an absolute mistake. Because at the next pick, at 17, the New England Patriots take an absolute stud, Christian Gonzalez. I love Christian Gonzalez. He's a phenomenal player. And for him to still be here at 17, I have a top 10 grade on him. I thought he was a top 10 pick. I still think he was a top 10 pick. I loved this kid. So for him to fall that far is insane. And then Detroit, sticking to their board and turning into the Las Vegas Raiders, taking Jack Campbell. Linebacker out of Iowa. Now, I love Jack Campbell. Please don't take this as a Jack Campbell slander. But Jack Campbell at 18, holy crap, what are you doing, Detroit? First, you take Jahmyr Gibbs at 12, and then you take Jack Campbell at 18. This is crazy. This is crazy. I know you need a linebacker, like desperately. You need someone to be back there to play with Malcolm Rodriguez, a guy that I really liked. Before. Guys, also, in the chat, let me know. What do you think of me without glasses? Fun fact, this is the only eye that has a problem, so I could get like one contact, but I'm scared of touching my eyes, and I used to not wear glasses for a long time, and then I had a bunch of headaches, and then I got glasses. I'm thinking about doing it. I've been wearing glasses for a while now. Let me know. What do you guys think? That's besides the point. Jack Campbell blew my mind. I love the player, and if you're so convicted that you like Jack Campbell and that this is the guy that you feel is going to make your team better, awesome. I love that you're that convicted. But this is a la the same kind of level of last year when New England massively overdrafted Cole Strange. Cole Strange, I had a second-round grade on him. I had a second-round grade on Jack Campbell, and to get him here, So, again, but they're in a great position to just take over the NFC North. So this is a luxury pick. This is, but it's two back-to-back just weird picks with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell. I'm not saying I don't like their draft class this year. I'm just saying I'm confused with their evaluation and their scouts and what they're doing. So yeah, let's see what happens there. Give me a second, guys. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19 take Kalijah Kancey. This is a great fit for them. Again, he's going to play more of that right end, left end for them. It fits perfectly. You're lining him right next to Vita Vea, and it makes a lot of interesting combos because he's going to be able to disrupt the pass, and he's not really going to have that responsibility in the run game because remember, they run an odd man front. It's 3 guys, it's 5 guys all up on the line and in the box. And when you play him as not the nose tackle, right, because that's still Vita Vea, but the guys right outside, the ends, the right end, the left end, he's going to be able to create some disruption. And Seattle at 20, who apparently was trying to come up to get our boy, Will McDonald, take the first wide receiver off the board and start the run of wide receivers, and they take Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Great fit for them. Tyler Lockett's not getting any younger, and Geno likes to throw the ball. Likes to throw the ball. And with that offensive line, shut up, Alexa. With all of the stuff that they're doing, this is a good pick. This is a Tyler Lockett replacement while they still have Tyler Lockett. And the NFC is weak. They can get competitive. They won a ton of games last year. Love this pick for Seattle. The Los Angeles Chargers stick and pick, and they take Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU. Not in love with the fit here. They have 2 big body wide receivers in Mike Williams, and I forget the other one. What's the other one? Give me a second. I'm going to figure it out. Chargers, lineup. Keenan Allen. There we go. They have 2 big body wide receivers. Now you're adding Johnson. You got a 6'3" wide receiver, a 6'2" wide receiver, and a 6'4" wide receiver. They're just huge guys. Huge guys. I would have liked Zay Flowers, who went with the very next pick to the Baltimore Ravens, the wide receiver out of Boston College for them. He would have provided a different skill set. But the Baltimore Ravens take Zay Flowers, and now they have a really, really fun wide receiver room. Remember that they paid Lamar Jackson. He is the highest paid wide receiver the highest paid quarterback in football. And they brought in Odell Beckham Jr. They brought in Zay Flowers. Watch out. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a Baltimore Raven. I see that in my bones. They're going to have a very, very serious wide receiver room to only get 13 targets a game while Lamar rushes every game. Very, very fun wide receiver room that's not going to get the ball thrown at them. And then the Minnesota Vikings do something that absolutely stunned me, and they took Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC. And of all of the spots for him to land, this is a perfect spot. Jordan Addison has wide receiver 2 written all over him. I didn't see the upside for him to be a legitimate wide receiver 1. I thought he needed to go to a team with an established wide receiver 1 so that he wouldn't get the attention and he could really take advantage of his skill set. And boom, dude, him in Minnesota, watch out, because I hate that I'm about to say this, but Rob V might be proven right, not because I think this player is all that good or anything like that. I'm not saying that he's bad either, but because he landed in Minnesota, and Minnesota is the perfect spot for him. Phenomenal pick for the Minnesota Vikings when you look at the combo. Little bit of a reach. I didn't have a first-round grade on Jordan Addison. I would have maybe liked for them to come back into the first round or trade back or to do something and do all of that. The New York Giants at 24, and offensive tackle Anton Harrison was there. No, they didn't need an offensive tackle. I'm sorry. That was a bad take. But none of the wide receivers were there. They lost out on anything, and they took a great player. Deonte Banks out of Maryland. Fantastic corner, great size, great athleticism. Wink Martindale loves his cornerbacks, and he asked them to do a lot of things. The Buffalo Bills trade up with Jacksonville, who, again, remember, Jacksonville traded back with the Giants so that they could take Deonte Banks. Then the Buffalo one spot. And then they traded with the Bills again, moving back 2 more spots so that the Buffalo Bills can come up and get Dalton Kincaid. Now, let's talk about this from a general manager, no Jets fan on. This is a great pickup for the Buffalo Bills. He provides the exact opposite skill set of what Dawson Knox brings. Dawson Knox is a great inline blocker, relatively good pass catcher, but that's what his skill set is. Dalton Kincaid provides the exact opposite. Not really good in line, but in my estimation and from my evaluation, he was the best pass catcher in this class. I'm including all the wide receivers. He was the best pass catcher, period. And they're going to use him as a wide receiver, essentially. And now they legitimately might have gotten their second premier pass catcher that's going to line up next to Stephon Diggs. Watch out. The Buffalo Bills really got serious, and now we need to figure out how we're going to cover Dawson Knox, how we're going to cover Dalton Kincaid. We know how we're going to cover Stephon Diggs. His name is Sauce. But Dalton Kincaid provides a wrinkle to the Buffalo offense that I was not expecting. The Dallas Cowboys at 26 take a player that I loved in this draft. I didn't like the fit with the New York Jets, but he is a fantastic player, fantastic athlete. They take Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. They had a ton of problems with stopping the run because they didn't have a true nose tackle to sit in front of the center and just grab the 2 guards and hug the center and just eat up a ton of space in the middle of that defensive line. Mozzie Smith does that. And you add the fact that this guy is incredibly strong, incredibly athletic. Boom. And he goes. And he's going to do great things for Dallas. Love that. Jacksonville moves back a couple of spots, accumulates a couple of picks, and they still get the guy that I think that they probably would have taken at 24. They take Anton Harrison, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. They needed to make this pick because now with Robinson probably getting suspended for PED use or substance abuse or whatever it is, he tested positive for something. They needed an offensive tackle. You need to protect your franchise guy. They need a tackle anyway on that offensive line. This gives them the opportunity to do that. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals really surprised me here. Michael Mayer on the board. They have an opportunity to go out and get a tight end for their quarterback. No. They do the right thing. They go onto the defensive side of the ball. They're starting to see that these defenses are building insanely deep rotations. That's what you need. Defensive rotations. You need to be 6, 7. If you're Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, and that tree of defensive guys, 10, 11 deep on the defensive line to create as much pressure as often as possible, and they do the right thing. I had Myles Murphy as a top 15 grade. He was my number 4 edge in this class. I loved Myles Murphy. I was really stunned when the New York Jets took an edge instead of when they took an edge, but they didn't take Myles Murphy. Myles Murphy fits a different skill set. We'll say that. He fits more of that JFM, Jermaine Johnson kind of role. So maybe that's why they pivoted and went with Will McDonald, who's going to line up on that weak side. But I love this pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. And low-key, the Cincinnati Bengals have started to develop a really serious pass rush. They've got Trey Hendrickson. They've got Sam Hubbard. They've got BJ Hill. You now add Myles Murphy. Dude, you keep building and building and building and building this elite pass rush. This is really, really interesting. The back end is going to be covered up by the fact that they're going to be able to get to the quarterback. And then the Philadelphia Eagles at 30 do the most Philadelphia Eagles thing possible. They just go to their favorite school in the draft, and they draft linebacker out of Georgia, Nolan Smith. It's insane. This is a top 10 grade. This is a top 10 guy. He's 10. He should be 10, right? No, not 10. He wasn't 10 on my board. I didn't like him that much. Like consensus, he's like a 10 guy. He's like 10 on a lot of people's boards. Nolan Smith goes to Philly, a team that has a Nolan Smith and Hassan Reddick. And it's just insane, man. The Philadelphia Bulldogs continue to draft Georgia Eagles players and just keeps going it out. And then we round out the end of the first draft with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Great pickup for them. Another one of those freak athletes, undersized kind of player. Not as undersized as Will McDonald, right? Because Will McDonald plays at like 240, 236, 240. But another kind of undersized edge when you look at like the true edges. But again, he fits that very similar skill set of what you're going to see from a lot of these undersized edged, your Will Andersons, your Will McDonalds, your Felix Anudike-Uzomahs, your BJ Ojularis, all of these guys who are undersized wide 9 edges. But yeah, there it is. All right, there's the draft class, guys. Let's power through. Let's power through this chat. Let me see. I'm just gonna power through. Detroit 2 reaches, but 2 good players. Absolutely. Listen, this draft was trash. At this point, nothing was a reach. Wild Wave, once you got to pick 9, 10, once Jalen Carter came off the board, you're absolutely right. This draft class is not a good draft class. And everybody's grades and everybody's everything was going to be different from everybody. So, yeah. Again, do I love the pick? No. But do I hate it? No. It's a good pick. He's a good player. He's a good football player. Is there other places that I would have wanted to go? Yeah, I would have gone Anton Harrison. I think he's got a sky high ceiling. You get him to just not skip leg day for a couple of weeks, build up that lower half, and get him working in the run game more effectively, and you've got a guy who's the best pass protector and all that stuff. Now you can see that the New York Jets weren't as high on Anton Harrison as I am. I have Anton Harrison as my number 4 tackle in this class. I knew people that had Anton Harrison as the number 3 tackle in this class. Actually, no, I had Anton Harrison as my number 3 tackle in this class because I had Peter Skoronski as an offensive guard. Again, but I'm not Joe Douglas, and Joe Douglas has 4 stud picks in last year's draft, back to back to back to back to back. So who am I to question Joe Douglas and what he did, right? He made a ton of really, really good picks last year. And I'm going to trust the fact that they see the vision for Will McDonald because I see it. I know what the New York Jets are trying to do. It's now a matter of 1, is Will McDonald good enough to execute the plan? And 2, what's the rotation going to look like? That's the real thing. We didn't really have a guy to rotate with Carl Lawson last year, like at all. Carl Lawson needed to take all of the reps on that weak side because we didn't have a weak side rusher, like at all. Now we do. Will McDonald fits that role of a weak side rusher exceptionally well. Now we can start taking reps off of Carl Lawson, giving reps to Will McDonald, and really going deep with our edge rushing rotation. So, again, not a great pick, not a bad pick. Just walking people off the edge just a little bit. Nathan Colgrove, not sure it'll happen, but would love to unload Lawson if we can get a 3rd back. I agree, Nathan, but I agree. I don't think it's probably going to happen. Hi, late here. What's your take on the McDonald? I give it an F. It's a C-, Kev Chatta. I hope what I just said gives you an explanation on like why I think that. The guy's an insane freak athlete. He's going to be exceptional when he's utilized in a wide 9 rushing. He's fast. He's got the best spin move in this class. There's a video of him absolutely annihilating Darnell Wright, the number 9 pick in this year's class, at the Senior Bowl. He's great. But is this the position that we needed to draft? No. But I do like what Joe Douglas said after he made the pick. The New York Jets are never going to be the team, as long as I'm here, to reach for a position of need versus taking a player that we know is going to be a stud. And like a lot of people and a lot of circles that I trust and I follow, they believed that Will McDonald was a lot higher on a lot of people's boards than a lot of actual NFL teams' boards than the media. So, yeah. C is a fair grade for this pick. I totally agree. Quentin is a bust anyway. I totally agree. Tigo, so what do you think of Will McDonald? He can jump a car, but can he play 3 downs? For the New York Jets, yeah. For the New York Jets and how we're going to use him, yeah. Remember, the weak side rusher doesn't play the run. That's what the weak side linebacker is for. You got to understand the fundamentals of our defense, right? Our defense runs a little bit differently. The strong side is responsible for stopping the run that goes to the right side. Remember that traditionally when teams run the ball, they run the ball to the right side. You can look it up statistically. That's what they do. So that's why if you ever look at the alignments, Quinnen Williams plays to the right of the center and Jonathan Franklin Myers plays to the right of the center. Why is that? Well, one, because they're incredibly good pass rushers, but two, they're incredibly solid in the run game. Whenever Jermaine Johnson played, what side did he play on? Again, another incredible run-stopping defensive edge who also can create and penetrate in the pass. And where did he play? On the right side. Now, if we look at the guys who have pass rushing skill sets, where did they play? Whenever we subbed in Bryce Huff, you put him on the left side for Carl Lawson. If you look at Sheldon Rankins, a pass rushing defensive tackle, what side did he play? On the right side of the center. So again, when you look at our defense and how it's built to rush the passer, we really, remember, we rush the passer on every single set. Every single set is a pass rushing set for all four of the guys. But the right tackle, the right defensive tackle and the right defensive end, or not defensive end, but the right edge, they have the responsibility of also being to take care of the run, and then the guys on the weak side, on the blind side of the quarterback, are responsible for breaking up the that offensive line, getting to the backfield and disrupting. And here's the key: if it's a run play, chasing from the backside. And that's why a guy like Will McDonald makes a ton of sense for this team, because on second and long, on third and long, which is the expectation that we plan on being, they can run on the other side and get to the runner from behind them while they're patiently waiting for their cutback lanes and stuff like that. Now, how do you stop the run if they do run it on the left side and you have these guys running with their hair on fire? That's what the weak side linebacker is for, and that's what the weak side safety is for. Now, the problem with this is that our weak side linebacker right now is Quincy Williams, and our weak side safety last year was Jordan Whitehead. Both guys, they drop big hits, but not the best tacklers. Well, I said this earlier. My expectation is that Deion Henley is going to probably be the target at 43 if I'm looking at it from a perspective as the Jets after taking Will McDonald. And if that's the case, well, now you just got a much better tackler on your weak side linebacker. And remember that we traded for Chuck Clark, who is one of the best tacklers at the safety position. And now your weak side safety can tackle incredibly effectively. So now we're going to be able to stop the run in our system. And that's how we run a defense. There you go. Hopefully you learned something there, and boom. JSN was begging to be the pick at 15. JSN, I think that the NFL told you what they thought about these wide receivers by the first one going at 20. JSN, I don't think was ever on the New York Jets board at all because he wasn't for me on the board. JSN does not fit the skill set of what Nathaniel Hackett wants out of a slot receiver. And that's what he is. He's a slot receiver. It's what he is. Now, Jason's a phenomenal athlete. Was still wide receiver 1 on this board. But we've got 4 guys that play out of the slot right now. 4 guys who can legitimately play out of the slot. I talked about it last year how my ideal situation was Corey Davis. Corey Davis in the slot as a big slot. What did we do? No, we went out and we signed a big slot in Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard in the slot is going to be legit. But JSN going at 20 surprised me. I thought that was high. Well, I thought Quentin Johnson and Jordan Addison all going in the first round surprised me. But yeah, that really surprised me. He's not going to do it. How are you going to make this comment, Rob, knowing that Bijan Robinson just exists? Come on, man. Come on. Don't love Banks gets burnt deep a lot. Yeah, but safety help, right? That's the whole point. Safety help. I get that, though. Levis not going at all in round 1 was a shocker. Me 2. I did not expect that. I expected a team to come up to get the 5th-year option on him. Not one. Ooh. Anton Harrison's ceiling is super high. Yep, love the ceiling on Anton Harrison. I think he can be a stud. Tigo, I said it before and you didn't see it. What happened with Joey Porter? The teams that needed cornerbacks took wide receivers. That's it. The teams that needed corners, they all took wide receivers. Like, there's nothing else that I can say. Give me a second. Let me pull up. I closed the thing. What teams needed a wide receiver? Oh, a corner, right? Like, desperately, in my eyes, like they just needed a corner. You look at okay, right? Let's keep going. And then Washington, they messed up. Emmanuel Forbes over Joey Porter, hell, over Christian Gonzalez or Deontay Banks. All mistakes, right? Then the Patriots take a corner. They took Christian Gonzalez. Made a ton of sense. That's the perfect pick. The Giants take Deontay Banks. I had Deontay Banks over Joey Porter Jr., like, on my board. But, like, the Ravens needed a corner. They took a wide receiver. The Vikings needed a corner. They took a wide receiver. The Bills needed a corner. They took a tight end. The Jaguars needed a corner, but Cam Robinson decided to get suspended. You know, the Bengals needed a corner. They took an edge rusher. The Eagles could have taken a corner, but they decided to go to the Georgia Eagles instead to draft another player for the Philadelphia Bulldogs. And that's it. Those were all the teams that needed a quarterback. And so Joey Porter, while I liked Joey Porter, I always kind of had a late first, early second round grade on him. And that's exactly where he's going to go. It's like, remember that the Pittsburgh Steelers have pick 32, like, tomorrow. They need a corner. There you go. They might take a corner. Will McDonald, the worst pick in round 1, calling it now? Wow. Like, Quentin Johnston was taken in the first round. Emmanuel Forbes was taken in the first round. Jahmyr Gibbs was taken in the first round. Anthony Richardson was taken in the first round. Now, I'm not saying that these guys are bad, but their floors are much lower than Will McDonald. It just seems like Dave is upset. See, I loved Harrison too. I loved Harrison. Been doing research. Will McDonald a freak? Yeah, he's a freak athlete. Freak athlete. They were all trying to trade. They were trying to trade back. That's what was happening. So what does that have to do with anything? The only position that I think age matters is in that quarterback. Like, you don't want to draft a super old quarterback. Outside of that, edge, offensive line, all those guys, I don't care. Athletes don't make football players. He annihilated right against air. I need you to expand on this. Like, I don't even know what he annihilated right against air means. So I'm not sure what this is supposed to be meaning. Again, Dave, if you don't like the pick, that's fine. I think you're wrong. Like, again, you can not like the pick, but to say that he sucks at football or that he's not good at football is just objectively not wrong. Is wrong. He's a good football player. He was gonna go in the first round. Now, if you don't like him at 15, if you don't think that this was a need, I get that. But I really want you to clarify this because I just don't know what you're saying here, and I want to understand. So let me know. Kid can be a dynamic pass rusher? Absolutely. Whatever happened to balance? We have a surplus of edges, but have 4 question marks at the O-line. Again, Kev, that's our evaluation. Maybe the New York Jets don't have that evaluation. Remember last year, everybody thought that we were going to take a linebacker and a safety. We didn't take a linebacker or a safety. You know, we don't know what their evaluation is on the New York Jets. So, boom. Garrett Wilson is a great athlete, should not have been drafted. Silly talk. Different. Garrett Wilson can actually play football. Car jumpers are not football players. Yeah, Will McDonald set the Big Ten sack record with 33 sacks, beating out Von Miller. Is it Big 10? Big 12? I don't remember what conference it is. But whatever conference it is, he set the record. He beat out Von Miller's record that has been standing for years. Big 12. Boom. There's a good football player. Playing at the wrong position because Iowa State's defensive coordinator is an idiot and decided to play a guy who's sub 240 over a tackle, still created 23 pressures last year in college. Again, I'm not saying that he's this world-beating player, because he's not. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that that's what he is. But this is a good pick. What does he want, Tigo? Randall Cobb, JSN would have easily filled that role. What role? We have slots. We have 4 guys who can play in the slot. You understand that? Like, that's what JSN is. He's a slot wide receiver. Garrett Wilson took a bunch of snaps from the slot. Alan Lazard plays a bunch in the slot. Corey Davis plays a bunch in the slot. And McCole Hardman is legitimately an exclusive slot wide receiver. Come on, Dave. Come on. You're coming up with reasons to be upset with the pick. And I get it. But now you're like, JSN wasn't the move. If you want to argue that there should have been a different pick here, like, you know who the move is? Like Kalijah Cansey or Anton Harrison or Miles Murphy. Those are picks that I would have been like, yeah, makes sense. JSN ain't it, bud. JSN ain't it. Yeah, look, dude, Joey Porter makes too much sense for them. Yeah, no, I like Levis a lot, and for him to fall, man, whew, insane. Kev, see, that's the thing. We think it's a redundant edge. But remember that when when Robert Saleh was at San Francisco, they kept taking defensive ends and defensive tackles all in the first round. So, yeah, man. Will McDonald is a wide 9 edge rusher that has great bend and length to affect the QB. And while justifiably unpopular, I believe that the team has faith in Becton to return to his rookie form. I think that's why they made this pick. Not knowing much, I wanted JSN only to be different from Green Bay, as they never gave Rodgers a first-round talent. Tigo, what offensive weapon would you have gone with at 15? There isn't an offensive weapon at 15 that I would have felt comfortable with. The moment that Broderick Jones was taken off of the board, I pivoted to, I liked Anton Harrison. If not, you go defensive side of the ball. Like, I know that this is going to be, I'm going to get crucified for even saying this, but like, Christian Gonzalez was on the board. You have to at least think about it. Because Christian Gonzalez, in my eyes, was that good, right? You have to at least think about Christian Gonzalez. We didn't. Makes a ton of sense. I get that, right? Of course we're not going to take the corner, but he was that good. Kalijah Cansey made a ton of sense for the New York Jets. Now, why did we not go Kalijah Cansey? I mentioned it earlier in the stream. Size. It's all about size. At 6'1", 280 pounds, I don't know if he would really have success as a true interior defensive lineman. And in our scheme, he was just too big to be an edge rusher. I don't know how that fit would be for the New York Jets. I love the player, and I would have understood if that was the pick. I actually would have liked that pick, right? But the fit, I just don't know about the fit. And I think the same reason that a lot of teams don't look at Peter Skoronski as an offensive tackle, I think there's a lot of teams that don't look at Kalijah Kancey as a defensive tackle. They maybe look at him more as an end. And if that's the case, we don't really use an end, right? We use edge rushers, we use DTs, and he's not going to be that at the NFL level. Tampa was the perfect spot for him to use. They use a traditional odd man front. He can play right end, left end, something along those lines. You line him up next to a really, really big Vita Vea nose tackle, and you just ask him to pass rush. This is a great spot for him. So there's that. But there isn't an offensive weapon. I don't like any of the wide receivers in the first round, like none of them in the first round, specifically for the New York Jets. That isn't a skill set that we already have, or that would be, as a lot of people are using, redundant in the thing. None of the tight ends, like we've got 3 really good tight ends. We didn't need another one. So the moment that the tackles went off the board, you pivot to the defensive side of the ball, and the pivot was interesting. So there you go. But calling him a situational pass rusher is lazy. That's the thing. I don't think he's a situational pass rusher. He is a 3-down guy in the New York Jets system. So I've been saying JSN is the most overrated player in the draft. He's a slot wide receiver, a wide receiver 2 or 3 at best in the NFL. People act like he was Chase or Jefferson. Here's the thing, Rob. Yes, we did not have a single wide receiver 1 in this class. Not one. But of the guys who can be wide receiver 2s, JSN has the highest ceiling. Of those guys. Nah, maybe Zay Flowers. Here's the real thing with JSN, dude, is that he's just so smart. He just knows where the holes in the defenses are. That's it. He knows where the holes in the defenses are. He knows what he's going to do. He knows where he needs to go. He's not going to run the route you call. He's going to run the right route. And that's the thing with JSN. It's evaluating JSN was so hard for a lot of people because a lot of people are looking for, like, on paper things that they can do. What is the route running? What is the... JSN is a cerebral player. He is he's a mental guy. He is smarter than you. That's the thing. He's like having another quarterback out there, and that's the thing. So great pickup there. Give me a sec. Brian Burns, M. Lopez, I saw your question. I went to go find him. Dom C, because I'm not a pro comp guy. I don't like doing pro comps because I think that sets a really, really high ceiling. So I asked Dom C to give me a pro comp. Brian Burns was the pro comp that he gave. I like that a lot. I like that pro comp a lot. So there's that. Let's see if there's anything else. After so many years, Packers neglected to pick a wide receiver or a tackle in the first round for Rodgers. It's disappointing we also couldn't support him with a first-round draft pick. Well, we did last year. We have 2 first-round wide receivers. This is the first time he's going to throw a touchdown to a first-round wide receiver in his career, right? And there wasn't an offensive tackle on the board that we could have taken. That's it. Again, we could have taken on Anton Harrison. I liked Anton Harrison. It really sucks that we did that 13 and 15 pick swap because I would have loved Broderick Jones on this team. Like, I really would have loved Broderick Jones on this team. But yeah, it sucks. And I think that pick swap is what ultimately didn't let us do it. And yeah. Were you guys dying as those tackles came off? A little bit. Not going to sit here and lie to you, Mitch. A little bit. Hey, Mitch, if you're still here, I don't know if you've left or if you're still here or anything like that, but what did you think about Lucas Van Ness? I love this pick for you guys. I would have liked it for you guys to support your rookie quarterback, Dalton Kincaid. I thought made like too much sense for you guys, and to see him fall all the way to 25 blew my mind. I had him as the best pass catcher in the draft, but I love Lucas Van Ness. And on the other side of Rashawn Gary? What's his first name? I know his last name's Gary. What's his first name? Somebody tell me what the pass rusher in... what's his name? Is it Gary? Oh my God, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm going to go to sleep. You guys get it. But yeah. Ba-bum. Zay and Addison are gonna do just as well. Totally agree. But they're gonna do good for different reasons. I trust Steve Smith accolades about Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is so good, man. I love Gary. Rashawn Gary, got it. Okay, good. What finals do you have tomorrow? I'm waiting for you to end the chat. Biology and Spanish. All right. What's target in round 2? Dion Henley. For me, that's the target in round 2. We addressed the defensive line, which I would have wanted to do in the second round. I don't like any of the offensive tackles that are left on the board. I think DeJuan Jones is too big, and that's a guy who has weight issues. Blake Freeland would be a little bit of a reach, and after what Joe Douglas just said, don't think they're going to reach. And then Bergeron, I think, slots in more as a guard. I actually do like Bergeron, but again, a little bit of a reach. I do like Dion Henley a lot. So Dion Henley at 43 would make a ton of sense. And then, Dave the Dude, now the Dion Henley pick would be supporting the Will McDonald pick, right? The problem with our run game last year was that Quincy Williams wasn't good against the run, and his whole responsibility in this team is to be good against the run. Well, Dion Henley is a weak side linebacker who could be totally good against the run. And this is why I think Jamie Sherwood needs the nod over Quincy Williams, because if you can put CJ Mosley as the weak side linebacker, if you can put him as the Will and Jamie Sherwood as the Mike, because Jamie Sherwood was built to cover tight ends in a lab, and that's what he should do. And CJ Mosley was built to stop the run. But the problem is, and I don't know what it is with the evaluation, I don't think they're ready to give Sherwood the job as a Mike, and I don't know. That's literally what I think it is. I don't know if they're ready to take away the responsibility of the Mike linebacker from CJ Mosley so that they can give it to Jamie Sherwood, so that Jamie Sherwood could be the Mike, and that CJ Mosley can be the Will, and that would solve our run game issues, literally, because Jamie Sherwood is pretty good in coverage, and he's a great tackler, so if he was asked to come downhill, he can do that. But the problem with Jamie Sherwood is that he gets tied up in blocks way too easily. If a guy gets to the next level, he cannot shake it, and I think that's the problem. I love old Sherwood, and I hope that he can develop that skill set, but yeah. Alrighty, boys. No center. Now, that's why we signed McGovern, and center go in the 4th round. Ricky Stromberg is my target now in the 4th round. Absolutely not. I'm assuming that's towards the center. Is that what that is at? Oh, yeah, because you like Henley, and I was talking about Henley. Kev, we should beat the Heat if we can keep Jimmy from going nuts. Top to bottom, where better? So, side note, Knicks Heat, who you picking? Okay, I'm not a basketball guy, and my basketball team is the Dallas Mavericks. As a Florida guy, I love what the Heat are doing. For being in Florida and living in Florida, but as New York in my blood, I like it when the Knicks do good. So, yeah. This is also a great point. And he should not be there. He should be a Texan. Do the Texans even have that pick? Give me a second. I'm gonna look up round 2. Do the Texans even have that pick? Because if the Texans don't have their pick, now you have to worry about the Cardinals. But if the Cardinals don't have that pick, what teams need a center? With all the trades that happened today, they atrocious. But if JMS is there, they take him. You have to take him. I just don't think he's there. No, they traded it. But the Cardinals, they have 33, and the Cardinals need a center. But they can't go 2 offensive linemen. They can't go tackle and offensive linemen, right? And then, okay, so let's do this. I'm going to pull this up on stream so that you guys can see it. Can someone let me in the chat know if you can see the screen? I'll just do this. Yeah, you guys can. Okay, I can't see the chat, but let's talk about this, and then I'm going to go to sleep because I need to go to sleep, boys. Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to pick. They're taking Joey Porter Jr. That's happening, right? Arizona Cardinals, they took Paris Johnson. There's no way that you can go center again. Detroit doesn't need a center. The Colts need a center, but are they going to take a center in the second round when they just drafted a quarterback with wide receivers? And here's the thing, with Michael Mayer on the board, I don't know. Rams can't make their first pick in the draft a center. Seattle doesn't need a center. Vegas doesn't need a center. Carolina could take a center. This is scary. The Saints could take a center. This is scary. Doesn't need a center. Doesn't need a center. Holy crap. If you're the New York Jets and JMS is there at 38, do you trade up? Yo, Rob, you just reminded me. Tippmann is there too. I never expected Tippmann to fall out of the first round, let alone JMS. Oh. We're about to get swifty. There's a lot that can happen here. This is really, really interesting. This is a great shout. What if Tippmann is there and JMS is gone? Because Tippmann is great. That being said, guys, I need to go to sleep. Stop talking to me. Stop sending chats. Only if they're there, M. Lopez. If not, you take Deion Henley because the centers are that good and we gave up backup money for Connor McGovern. He's making like $1.9 million. That's backup money. If we don't trade down at 43, we need offensive tackle. Forget center. Back of McDonald. What? I don't know what this means. Okay, I'm going to sleep. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Tomorrow, Jets Talk panel. The Talkin' Jets panel. I'll be on at 8:30. So come hang out. I'll be in the chat for the whole draft in the back doing all of my stuff. And yeah. Alrighty, boys and girls. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching the recap. If you're watching this on the back end, let me know what you think of the first round. A lot of surprising things happened. Good night and have a good one. And always,